Hi, my name's Ian. I'm a dad. I'm an engineer. I've done some business. And like many people, I've been kind of down about climate change. Um, but then I started reading up on a particular piece of technology, and it's put me in a better mood. That technology, it's here, it's on the market. They're investing billions in it every day. Um, what they do is they take green electricity, so wind turbine, solar, something like that. And they use that electricity to crack water into oxygen and hydrogen. But instead of just having hydrogen, which is really difficult from an engineering perspective to use to do anything, um, to handle, to move around, to have in any sort of concentration, uh, they they take that hydrogen and they combine it with nitrogen. Now, the air is 78% nitrogen. And so combining it together, you have this fuel that's still totally green, right? It's water and air, uh, but you can now handle it. It you get a lot more energy into a tank, for example, things like this. So one of the places or series of places or sets of places, however you want to describe it, that are really going to feel climate change deeply are island nations, right? Whether it's the big swings in weather, uh, rising ocean levels, so destruction of coral reefs because of the ocean getting warmer, all this stuff the island nations are going to feel. But if you lived on an island, um, she's moved now, but my aunt used to live in the US Virgin Islands on St. Thomas. And their electricity all came from fossil fuels, expensive fossil fuels like ship crude and diesel and stuff like that. And and so here they are in paradise, but their energy is really dirty, right? Dirty, dirty, dirty. And they're not that big, right? So in like I live in Ontario, the grid is quite big. So even if it's not blowing wind here, we still have access to hydropower from 1,000 miles away in northern Quebec. On an island, you don't have that. So I came across this study and I think it's great. So P2A2P, power to ammonia to power. So you take green power, you make ammonia, and then you turn that back into power. Okay. Doing that, making green fuel on the island of Curaçao is cheaper than fossil fuel. All right. Green power is cheaper. It's not like morally better. I mean, it's financially cheaper. And I love reading stuff like this. It makes me so happy. Doing the right thing doesn't have to be wildly economically unviable, right? So the study was called Green Ammonia Enables Sustainable Energy Production in a Small Island Development States, a case study on the island of Curacao. So if you see where this is the south end of the Gulf of Mexico. So if you go straight up, that's Dominican Republic and Haiti there, and Jamaica's over there. And I believe this is off the coast of, I think that's Colombia there, but I could be wrong because there's some other countries in there like Guyana. Anyway, it's in the Caribbean. It's not very big. It's very exposed to climate change, but it's not very green. So could they be green and could they afford to do it? So, I mean, here's just the costs are pretty remarkable, right? So, So we're going to convert things into the equivalent to diesel, right? So ammonia, um, one of the common cost targets is about $500. A lot of studies say it's going to be less than $500 a ton, but call it $500, right? So diesel has more energy per liter. It's got about 36 millijoules, megajoules, whereas ammonia has 11. So it's not quite the same punch per volume. So you need to use more to get the same amount, right? So basically you need 3 liters to equal 1 liter. But if you convert tons of ammonia into liters and then do the math to equate it to the same of diesel, it would be about 94 cents for a liter of diesel, or $3.55 per gallon. And those numbers are just fine, right? Like that's okay. Like that's kind of market. Actually, it's here in Toronto, that's quite a bit less. So wow, you know, totally green fuel. It's also cheap. So what they were looking at here is if they had renewable energy, right? So you've got turbines, you've got um, solar on the island, right? And you use that to feed your grid, but you overbuild it. You have more than your grid can really handle, and you use the extra in your water filtration and in making ammonia. Okay, so you have extra capacity. So when the wind is blowing, you are saving energy, right? That this is their plan. So you feed it into the grid, but then you save it. And then it's nighttime, whatever, wind's not blowing. When you don't have enough green energy for your grid, now you take your ammonia out of storage, you consume it, you burn it. I mean, you can use fuel cells too, but let's assume you're going to use it in a kind of gas plant sort of thing. Sorry, where the technology exists, they're using it this way in Japan. So, you know, this is all using commercially available tech. Okay. So you take your ammonia out of storage, you use it to feed energy to the community, to your water system. So that loop, flipping from saving to consuming, makes financial sense. One of the reasons you kind of need to do this is seasonality. Um, it's called the winter problem when you talk about green energy, the winter problem. But basically, some months your production, the amount of green energy you create, so the production's green. Sometimes it's more than you consume. And then sometimes it's less. In September, you consume more than you produce, whereas in Feb, you produce a lot more than you consume, right? So how do you balance this? Uh, batteries, batteries can work storing energy during the day to use overnight, but you can't, I mean, I mean, it might not be immediately apparent, but um, a liter of diesel, I said it had 36 megajoules in it. A liter of lithium batteries has 1, right? Batteries are not actually that energy dense, and to store energy for 6 months in batteries would just be an enormous amount of batteries, and wildly expensive to use, to charge once a year. Okay. So that's why you want to do it with a fuel. So when they compare this to other options, and listen, there will be a lot of people out there singing the praise of carbon capture. Um, I'm not exactly sure why, because it's pretty expensive. And then, okay, we capture the carbon. What are we going to do with it, right? So on the far left, you have power to ammonia to power. Okay, it is quite cheap. It's totally green, and it's kind of a closed loop. Yeah, even though there is a global market for green ammonia. So if ever your system went down or something, you can just buy it, right? Combine that with gas and carbon capture. The gas and carbon capture costs more. Coal with carbon capture costs a bunch more. And carbon capture isn't perfect. You still have a carbon footprint here. Um, if you did gas with no carbon capture, it's a huge amount of carbon footprint, and you're going to save like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, these islands don't tend to be gas. Um, they tend to be coal or heavy fuel, right? I haven't heard of, I mean, somewhere like Korea is going to import liquid natural gas, but a small island, the facilities are really complicated and hard to operate, and the pressures are really high. And so coal with no carbon capture. Coal, haven't actually looked up the chemistry. Coal, for the amount of energy you get out, produces a lot more greenhouse gas than natural gas. Um, so, natural gas isn't good, but coal's bad. All right. And then heavy fuel is quite a bit more expensive than coal, quite a bit more expensive than power to ammonia to power. Um, and that's without carbon capture, right? So heavy fuel is probably what they use today. Um, so this would be 30% less, 20% less, and totally green. So reading things like this make me feel a lot better about the future, right? To go green, uh, in many cases makes economic sense. Pure economic, pure unsubsidized, no incentive. It makes sense. So, I hope reading this, you feel a little bit better. You feel inspired. You're going to go out, you're going to learn maybe a little bit more about this technology, and you're going to pass the word around, right? I mean, these videos don't have a lot of views. That's okay. But I make them because, like, people should know, right? You should know that, like, these islands that are going to suffer from climate change could be totally green. Will be, the word will spread. They will be green. So anyway, uh, power to ammonia to power. It's cheap, makes sense, and green grids. All right, cheers.